So on number two, because they gave us the y-intercept of negative 13 and a slope of 7, doesn't that fit the slope-intercept form, right? The slope-intercept form is y equal mx plus b. Okay, guys. Some of you, I know, are working ahead, but yeah. Okay, so the y-intercept is the negative 13, so doesn't that go on the end of the equation, right? You're just sticking in stuff where it goes. And then, what's your slope? Because that's m here. What did they tell you the slope was on number 2? Was it at 7? So that goes in front of your x, and you've got your equation written. Now that's what they call the particular equation of the line described. When you put the particular, look at it this way, if you're putting the particular numbers they give you into the formula, that's the particular equation. So they're wanting you to use the information to write the equation, and you may need a different form than this sometimes, but on number 2 you just needed this form, right? Then they want you to transform it to slope-intercept form. Well, guess what? It is in slope-intercept form. Yay! We don't have to do any more work on this one. C says put it in ax plus by equals c form. And when you see that, remember there's stuff you got to remember. The a and the b have to be whole numbers, and the a needs to be positive. That's just considered polite math communication. So if I've got y equal for the c part, this was something you were doing on the quiz also, right? If I want to put that in, get the x and the y term on one side and the number on the other, I'm going to do this. Since my 7x is positive where it is, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to add the 13 to the other side just to move the number over to the other side. And so I would have y plus 13 is 7x. And now I'm going to move the y over with the x by subtracting it. And I could have done several other things, but that's just...
What is b?
What's b? What do you mean?
You wrote on there, what does it say?
B, if you look at on page...
It says yay.
Okay, so yeah, sometimes we'll already have it in the form they wanted us to put it in. All right, so now I've got 13, because the y minus y canceled out, is 7x minus y. And really, to put it in standard form, I should write 7x minus y is 13 for C. Just because we usually, part of the deal is arranging it the way that is nice for other people to get it and then work with it. If they give me a point and they give me a slope and they don't tell me how to write the equation, what form do I know that has a point in it and a slope in it? What's that form called?
Slope.
Point slope form, right?
Yeah.
They're giving me if they're giving me a point and a slope, so I want point slope form. Sometimes the name of the form gives it away. So that's this form that y'all were doing a lot of stuff with on the quiz today. And if you remember, all we got to do here is plug this stuff in the right place too. So this is another one that's kind of easier to do. The y1 here is this 7, isn't it? Because remember, 3 is my x1, 7 is my y1. So y minus 7, what was my slope here? It was 11, right? And then x minus the x1 was this 3 here. A lot of times when people plug these in, they get them backwards, so it might help you to label them if you find that you make that mistake, A lot of times we know what we're supposed to do, we just accidentally put it in the wrong spot, right? So that would be the particular equation there, because they didn't tell me the particular equation had to be in any form, so I'm just going to pick the thing that makes the most sense given the information they give me. The B part, though, says put it in slope-intercept form. Is this slope-intercept form? Nope, so I do have to do something on the B part here, so I won't put yay on this one and confuse y'all. When I put something in slope-intercept form, doesn't that mean y ends up being by itself? So if I just solve for y, that's what's going to do it on all of these. If you just solve for y on the part B, if you need to, that's what's going to, put it in that form for you. So if I solve for y, I got to add 7 to the other side. Be careful, though, because you can't just say that's 11x, and you can't say negative 3 plus 7 is 4, can you? That's not, you got to be real careful because you've got to distribute first. That would be 11x, and then minus 33, and then you got the plus 7. if I want to buy something that costs $33 and I only have $7, how much short am I? How much more money do I need?
26.
See how easy that is if you if you think of negatives as owing or wanting to buy something and 7 is positive numbers or the numbers the money that you have. It's like we know how to do that. And that's it. That's what they want for the Part B. They want it in slope-intercept form, and that's. Some of you were asking me on the quiz about why, well, don't I want to solve that for y to graph it? Do you see that on this problem? I could fit probably 3, 7 on one of those little 10 by 10 graphs, and then I could count my slope off, and it might slightly go off. But what if I tried to graph this from slope-intercept form? What would my y-intercept be here on this B part? Negative 26. Man, that's not going to fit on one of those graphs I give you, is it? So sometimes when we're graphing these things, we want to start with the point we're given, because sometimes when you change it to another form, that negative 26, that's not going to fit on those graphs very well. I could do it by renumbering my graph, but then it might make it hard to count off a slope of 11 if I count by 2's. The C part said put it in standard form. What do I need to put this in standard form? What do I do to it?
You make the x on the other side, and then make sure that the x is positive by timesing everything by negative.
Yeah, I could do that. I could move I could do that. Let's do that this time. I could leave the x where it is and just move the y over like I did on the example that I did before this.
I said move the x over to the other side.
Yeah, you could leave the x where it is, though, if you wanted to. I'll go ahead and do what you're saying here because that works, too. There's more than one way to do these, right? So if I do that, I have a negative 11x, and then I have a positive y, so that's a plus y, is negative 26. And this would be okay, except that negative in front of that x term is not considered proper. So I could multiply everything by the negative 1, like Micah said, and that would be one way to do this. I'd get, 11x minus y is positive 26. Huh?
That'd be easy to graph, though.
It would be. Do I have a point form of an equation that I can use to plug this right in there? I don't, do I? My choices are that standard form, which really isn't very helpful in writing equations. And then I have slope-intercept form, which I need a slope and a point. I'll have 2 points here. And my other choice is the point-slope form, where I get a point and then a slope. I don't have that here, do I? I don't have any of the right stuff that I need to just go with one equation and just stick it in there and be done here. But I do have 2 points. If I have 2 points, can I find the slope? Because I have a slope formula. Now the slope formula, I want to make sure we emphasize this. I didn't do it last time just because we were short on time. You remember you subtract the y's on top and you subtract the x's on bottom, and mathematicians get tired of writing that, so how they write that is the change in y's over the change in x. That's the same, means the same thing. It means subtract the y's on top, subtract the x's on bottom. So what I might want to do here, some of you can do these in your head. Just be careful because you're subtracting, and so if you got a negative sign and you start subtracting, isn't there going to be a chance that you could get that wrong? You can see how that would. So let me label some stuff here. I'm just going to just say I called that x1, y1, and then, because that's my first point. Let's say this is my second point over here, so I'll call that x my second point and y my second point. If I plug this stuff in now, my y2 was this negative 10 the way I labeled it, and then I'm supposed to subtract y1. Well, isn't y1 negative 4? Isn't that going to become negative 10 plus 4? If you want to buy something for $10 and you have $4, how much short are you? 6 short. So that's going to be negative 6. Try to think like that and see if it doesn't help you miss less of the negatives if you have trouble with them. On the bottom, I'm supposed to say x2, which is this negative 5, minus x1 is 2. Negative 5 minus 2. Borrowed $5, borrowed 2 more. I borrowed $7, right? Yes. So that negative over a negative, wouldn't that be a positive 6/7 is my slope? Now that I have the slope, I have 2 points in the slope. So what do you think? Should I pick the slope-intercept form, y equal mx plus b? Does it make sense to pick that? Do I have the y-intercept? No, because the y-intercepts were x is 0. Did they give me an x of 0 either of these places? So maybe that's not the easiest one. What do you think would be a good choice since I have the slope and a point? Point, slope, right? Does it matter which point I pick? It doesn't. And so you know what let's do? When we get problems like this, just so we'll all end up with the same answer, why don't we just pick the first point they give us as the point we plug in? That way we won't have to do every problem twice, okay? So if I'm going to pick, let me go ahead and just pick the first point they gave me. I could pick the other one, but I'm just to save time, we're just going to say let's pick the first one. I know what my slope is because I came down here and I figured it out. It was 6/7, right? And you remember, you're supposed to have a y and an x in every problem, right? And in this formula, they've got subtraction signs in the formula. Now let me plug my point in. My point was x1 is 2, that goes over here, and y1 is -4, that goes up on the left-hand side, doesn't it? If I simplify that, doesn't that become y plus 4 is 6/7 times x minus 2? That would be my particular equation there. It would be the easiest way to write it. The B part says put it in y-intercept form, slope-intercept form. So I could move the 4 over, and I get y is 6/7 x minus 2 minus 4. This is not going to be pretty because I got to multiply out. That's 6/7 times x. And then 6/7 times -2. A positive times a negative is a negative. 6 times, remember I could put that 2 over 1 and think 6 times 2 is 12 on top. And 7 times 1 is 7 on the bottom. But then I still got to subtract my 4. How we wish we could subtract those whole numbers and not distribute first, right? It would have been so much easier. Okay, now it's going to go. So now I need a common denominator if I'm going to combine these two. So let me multiply this one by 7/7. And that'd be like 6/7x minus 12/x, and that'd be a minus 28/7, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So -12 minus 28 more would be minus 40/7. Get used to things looking this way because this book doesn't care to give you whole numbers all the time. They're kind of getting you used to this because this is just the way real life goes when you're really working with math. Things usually aren't pretty little equations like we like. If I'm trying to put that in standard form and I multiply everything by 7, that would become 7y is equal to 6x minus 40, wouldn't it? If I just multiply everything by 7, it would clear out those 7s on those fractions, but that y didn't have a 7 on the bottom, so it becomes 7y. Here's the other way. Mike, a while ago, he moved his 6x to the left. I notice it's positive where it is, so maybe I want to do this. This is another way to do it. Remember, you can say, okay, let me move the y's over there by subtracting the 7y. So I'm going to move the y's over to this side. And at the same time, in the same step, you know what I could do is go ahead and say, I got to move that 40 to the other, that minus 40 to the other side by adding it. So I could just do all that in one step. And I would have 6x minus 7y. And I know that's supposed to go on the left, so let me just write it on the left here. And on the what was on the left, the 7y's canceled out, and I have a 40. So maybe I just go ahead and, I could do that instead of moving everything and then multiplying it by a negative. I could leave the x where it is since it's already positive. Subtract the 7y to move it over, and then just move that 40 over.